Hey folks, Rue here. Just wanted to let you know that this episode of the podcast is sponsored by Health IQ, an insurance company that helps health-conscious people like yourself get special life insurance rates. Health IQ uses science and data to secure lower rates on life insurance for health-conscious people, including runners, cyclists, strength trainers. You get the picture. So go to healthiq.com/Ruel to support the show and, most importantly, learn more about Health IQ. That's healthiq.com/RUEL.
Podcasting from somewhere in the San Francisco Bay Area, the birthplace of Bruce Lee, the iPhone, and the bendy straw. This is Ruel's Running Podcast, a podcast about running, health, family, play, and an NSNG lifestyle. And now, here's your host, Ruel.
It was a dream, a million miles away. There was fire in
Amazon.com. You know, I won't be surprised if more and more stuff that I shop for, buy, and get shipped to my home comes from Amazon. It's just a reality, right? And if this is your reality, go to ruelsrunning.com, click through to the Amazon banner to get to Amazon. Why am I asking you to do so? Well, it is a no-cost-to-you way, if you like listening to Ruel's Running Podcast. It is a way that you can help the show out without spending more than you've already spent while shopping at the good folks at Amazon.com. So help us out. Go to ruelsrunning.com, click through to the Amazon.com site, and shop, connect, and enjoy. Welcome, everybody. Welcome to the show. It's Ruel. How are you? If you are a return listener, it's good to have you back. It's been a while, it seems. And if you are a new listener, what's up? If you are a new listener, you won't know that I do. I might be coming across sounding under the weather. The normal listeners, the usual listeners, can tell. I'm feeling under the weather, like under the ass crack of the weather. Not sure what to call it. It's a suspected. Well, I don't even know what it is. But my daughter's preschool director said, maybe you have strep. I'm like, really? I don't know. Is that thing going around? This is not around there, so I'm like, okay, well, I better go to work then. Yeah, it's been kind of tough, and I guess that kind of will get us into health chat. But let's hold off on that. We'll talk about why I'm feeling crummy, but battling through it anyways. Just want to cut through some announcements. Or an announcement. You know, I am still looking for music. I want to change things up for the new year. I want to see about getting some awesome music. I've hit up some friends who I know are musicians to see if they have anything that they'd care to share. You know, I just want something upbeat, something awesome, something that rocks. And something that I can get complete permission to share on the podcast, in the intro, the outro, that kind of stuff, and also definitely give props to the artist and the song and whatnot, all that good promotion and stuff. So looking for that. So if you or somebody you know has something that I would be able to use that of interest, hit me up on the website. There's a SpeakPipe widget. Just go to ruelsrunning.com, tap on SpeakPipe, and it'll do what it's got to do to enable a little pop-up or screen so that you can do some recording over the computer. And if that does not fit your flow, you can just give me a buzz at 650-684-7835. That's also 650-MUG-RUEL. Okay, there you go. That's the announcement. You know, I wanted to do a shout-out. And this is an old friend of the show. And I want to give a shout out to Trey Beecham. He he might not be listening as often these days. He's got other things going on, but I want to give a shout out. And the reason why I want to give him a shout out is because, on the other spectrum of things where I participate, like t-shirt designs and stuff like that, over at abadamstudios.com. A while back, there was a Vinnie Todrich, No Sugar, No Grains, and Anna Vicino's Eat Happy, and I'm just going to name drop, Pure Vitamin Club, Kansas City meetup. And, at the last minute, this is talked about in a previous podcast, I created a t-shirt design. I wanted to put it out there for folks who participated in the meetup, so that they can, have something to commemorate the event in the form of a t-shirt. So, Trey was there. He spearheaded the event, and a lot of people participated. I just want to give him a shout out. And what he did was he promoted the little store so that folks can buy the t-shirt. And since then, more recently, he's been doing. He's still kind of mindful that I have that ability. Anybody has the ability, but I've become his guy, so that if he needed a t-shirt or something, he just, he'd send me a text and asked if it would be okay to slap the design on a shirt or some sort of product or apparel, so that he can buy. I'm like, yeah, definitely. Use me, abuse me, exploit me, pimp me out. Happy to help if it helps other folks. I can do that. So shout out to Trey. Awesome. On the topic of food, hey guys, what is cooking good looking? The family took a kind of a long break through the Thanksgiving period, and so there wasn't a whole lot of unique cooking going on. As a matter of fact, before we took the trip, a lot of the meal prep that had happened before the trip, that stuff went into the freezer so that it was available for our return, and so that food didn't get wasted. But what I cooked lately it's kind of a sentimental thing to do for some reason, and I don't do it that often, but it's sentimental because it reminds me of being home as a kid and being around my mom in the kitchen or my grandparents. And it's simply taking some good old whole fish, scaled, gutted, and slited, seasoned, and fried up in a pan. And I know a lot of what you guys are thinking are like, that's kind of gross. It's going to stink up the house and all that stuff. And it actually isn't too bad. And the only thing different that I do that over what my parents and my family has done when cooking fish is, I cook it up in a big old pan of bacon grease. And I know you guys are thinking like, whoa. I'm not deep frying the thing. It's sort of, when the fish is in the hot oil, it's one side is in the oil and the other half is not. And so, you're thinking, wow, fish and bacon grease, how does that work? Surprisingly, it works just fine, and I don't have to worry about the garbage that's associated with heating up, vegetable oils or corn oils and garbage oils to high temp to do frying, like I kind of grew up around. And I think that makes a big difference with the fry as well. I'm not saying that you eliminate all fishy smell when you cook that way, but I think that there's a difference in how much of that is emitted with the oil that is used, and I can't prove it. I'm just talking out of my rear. But if you agree with me and you believe what I have to say, can I get an amen? So yeah, couple whole fish, clean, gutted, scaled, seasoned salt and pepper, simple, and just on in some hot bacon grease. I do like 8 minutes on one side, and I take a look, and it might end up being like 8 to 10. The main thing is not getting it to burn.
and wanting it to kind of cook through. And what I learned when frying up the fish is to listen to the gurgling and the bubbling, because when it minimizes, then that basically says that a lot of that moisture has been evaporated and moved and cooked out, and you can count on having a crisp fried fish. And my youngest son loves eating the fish, and I look at him, I watch him eat sometimes, and I do my best to kind of fillet the meat out, and sometimes there's still, fragments of bones caught up in the meat, and it doesn't bother him. He eats right through it, simply because the fish is so damn crispy that you can just chomp it down. It isn't sort of flexible and spiny and can cause choking problems. So that's what's cooking. I know you're wondering what type of fish I had fried. My wife and my son, they're like all types of fish. This pair was the tilapia fish. We always try to get the type that is not farm raised, only because there's a risk that stuff is just not raised well, and you don't want to put that stuff in your body. So anyways, that's what was cooking. And I have to chug my coffee and soothe my throat. Give me a moment. Coffee and heavy cream. So I might have talked about in a past episode how Andy Schreiber over at Pure Coffee Club and Pure Vitamin Club had sent over a bunch of sample coffee beans for the coffees that they had recently released out at Pure Coffee Club, and they're delicious. It was exciting to receive. I almost didn't want to consume them, but I'd be an idiot to not consume them. And the Costa Rican honey process is done. It's gone. The house blend was the first to disappear, and now I'm wrapping up the athletic blend, and it's almost gone. Oh, what in the world am I gonna do? I better order some new coffee. Yeah. So I want to flip over to the topic of family, and I wanted to talk about bullies and stuff, and I don't know if I want to do that now, because I think I'll save it for a different podcast. There's just a lot to say, and I kind of don't want to get caught up in a lot of it, because I kind of don't want to miss some things, and I find it important. As a matter of fact, when I was going through it, I thought maybe this is worth being a podcast in its own, its own thing. But I don't know. What the heck? I'll talk a little bit about it. So, my son was going through, for the school year, my youngest son had been having problems with a particular kid, and not a new kid. He's a kid who has been classmates before, but for some reason this year it's been tough for the kids, and my kid would come home and every now and then would say, so and so he hit me, or he punched me in the stomach, he punched me in the arm, he called me a loser, that kind of stuff. And with every report, my wife and I will say, oh, that's not good. Did you tell a teacher? Did you tell them to stop? Kind of float that way. Don't think anything of it. Just think it's sort of day-to-day stuff that, have confidence that the whole classroom and school setting will sort things out. There hasn't been any issues before, so it stands to reason that, don't have anything to worry about. Then, sometime in, I want to say October, get a call from the principal, a report that my son had been hit in the head by a trash can. I imagine it's one of those garbage pails, the classroom plastic Rubbermaid type stuff. But it's like, okay, what in the world? Okay, and okay, that's not good. And so we get that phone call from the principal. We thank her for letting us know, and she assured us that he's okay, no damage, But the following day, my wife's pretty concerned, and she decides to send out an email to the principal, just saying, you know what, thinking back, prior to the trash can incident, my son has reported having issues with a particular kid, and for privacy reasons, the principal can't confirm who the kid is. But whenever my son comes home, he tells us exactly who it is, and sure enough, it's the same kid every time. And okay, so we sent an email, and I talked to the principal directly, simply because they want to give us assurance that they're going to take care of things, and they also want to respect privacy and all that stuff. I'm like, great, fine. But I basically say, I don't care who the other kid is. I don't care. I only care about my kid. I care about kids in general, but, when it comes to my kid getting hurt, that's what's most important to me. So, the request is, just create separation, right? Keep him away from him. With all that's happened so far in the year, and now the trash can, let's separate him. So, the principal says, okay, she'll take a note that I put that in a request, and they'll try to do it as much as possible. She gave me other assurances, like, oh, there's going to be more support in class, blah, yada, yada, yada. I'm like, fine, that's great. Okay, I said what I had to say. Let's go from there. And then November rolls around, and I get another call from the principal. My son gets hit in the nose, bleeds, goes to the nurse's office. Again, she can't tell me who hit him, what happened, and sure enough, and she says she knows that once he gets home, he'll be able to tell me. Sure enough, it's the same kid. I'm like, okay. As a matter of fact, I was out in the middle of a run in San Francisco, midday, when I got that call from the principal. And I'm like, okay, awesome. And it's like, okay, what is it going to take? More blood, more attacks, concussion, this is not good. So I proceeded to unleash my adult language. Not saying that attacking the principal personally, but attacking the situation, describing the situation as not acceptable, right? And to the point where, I kind of had to cool down, got off the phone, then called right back, and asked to speak to the principal again. Said, oh yeah, this is the father of so-and-so who just got punched in the nose and bled, and I just wanted to follow up with the principal. So, got the principal back on, apologized for my language, only to proceed using better language. So, as you can imagine, I'm a really pissed off dad, right? And I'm not going to take shit, right? And to a point where, tourists, bystanders where I am at in San Francisco, they're hearing me say things like, I'm not upset, I'm pissed, right? My son got fucking punched in the nose, blah, 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 right? And people are turning their head, and I'm like, I don't care. I'm on fire right now. I am so bad. And then the phone kind of goes dead. Either got disconnected or she hung up because she just couldn't stand hearing my song. And then I called my wife up, told her exactly what happened, and I was fuming. That's just not cool, right? That's just not cool. And, there are other events that happened up in that point to get folks' attention, and it's unfortunate that it takes a lot of effort to do that. So what I did was, I consulted friends, I consulted a friend, Kendra. First I consulted a group on Facebook, friends who are also friends of the show, and they directed me to Kendra. And Kendra doesn't listen to the show, so I'm just going to use her first name in vain. Hi Kendra, I love you. I really appreciate all that you do to kind of help me through this period. So, she had a lot of good things to say how to handle it, and so in the end, I sent an apology email, and just quickly apologizing how upset and my language. But then I started to demand that the principal formulate a action plan, provide some sort of guidelines, and I needed it in writing, and how they are going to proceed with all of this stuff. Again, they can't tell me who the kid is, I don't care. But I want to know, what steps they're going to do, and through the guidance of Kendra, threw in things like, need these guidelines, need this action plan, and whatever it ends up being, need it to be given to the offending student's parents as well for them to sign so they have on record, right? And, not feeling the greatest confidence with the principal, I said, I kind of would have expected, that someone in your position, the principal of the school, would know an action plan or have guidelines that they can provide to parents of kids who are harmed in school, because this is, you know what's going on, and you're not really saying anything new. All the stuff that's being told so far, it should be standard operation. It's not, above, it's not exceptional. It's like, you're supposed to watch the kids, right? You're supposed to, you're supposed to ensure their safety, right? You're supposed to, say what you're going to say do what you're supposed to do after I've put in a request many times in the past. So, no confidence. So I kind of did if you need help, maybe Superintendent so-and-so, and I threw out his name, and said maybe, and if he's unavailable, maybe his executive assistant, I threw out her name, can help, and, I'm going to contact the, and then, and if that isn't, maybe, you need to contact the executive director of the special education folks and the program manager. I threw out their names. Then I CC'd all of them into email, right? And, and then I threw in a quick bullet points of things that make sense to do, right? Like, fill out an incident report. Don't just call me. There isn't any record of anything happening for me as the parent of a kid who's harmed, right? So I want an incident report. You don't have to tell me who it is, right? But I need to know what happened to my son, when did it happen, any other information, how it might have occurred, who was there to break it up or handle it or take care of him, all that stuff, right? And at the very least, and I'm sure there's a whole bunch of other stuff that I threw out in an email. I was actually really proud of the email because it got really creative. Hey guys, in a 2014 Journal of American College Cardiology study, they found that runners have a 30% lower risk of mortality and a 45% lower risk of death from heart disease, while persistence runners have a 29% lower risk of mortality and a 50% lower risk of death from heart disease. What do you think of that? Pretty good, right? Knowing that, if you have a healthy lifestyle, and if you consider running part of a healthy lifestyle, that's pretty good. And here's something to think about. You know how good drivers stand to get better auto insurance rates? You don't have tickets and faulty accidents that were your fault and on your driver's record, and you didn't happen to clear up from, doing traffic school and all that good stuff. Well, the health-conscious person like yourself, can also stand to obtain lower rates on life insurance. And how? Well, there's Health IQ. That's where they come in. Health IQ uses, again, science and data to secure lower rates of life insurance for health-conscious people, like the folks here listening to the podcast. So whether you're a runner, a strength trainer, a yoga instructor, Pilates, you get the picture, a healthy way of eating lifestyler, you should check it out for yourself. That's Health IQ. Go to healthiq.com/Ruel to support the show. And most importantly, learn more about Health IQ. And sure enough, what happened the next day is some near incident, and the principal was there. And at this point in time, I like to describe my son as just feeling already intimidated, that any sort of nearness contact is already like sort of traumatic, like something has happened in his mind or going to happen. So, my son says he got pushed or hit. The principal says she was there, nothing happened, but then goes to show that, for the principal to be there, they definitely need that support to create that separation. Oh, I remember, I basically painted the picture in the email that this is what's happening, right? It's a classroom that's undersupported, right? And it's a special education class, right? Mild students and not so mild students, and I called it an inappropriate mixture of students. Some students need like aids like almost all the time, and what happens is in a classroom where this is the teacher's first time teaching us this type of class, that already spells like, ooh, okay, this is going to be a challenge for that teacher. And guess what? I painted the picture of it's undersupported. Things get out of hand. Most of the time is being spent to put out fire on kids who are more needy. And everyone loses their mind, Everyone loses their mind. And when you have kids who have sensory issues and other things, or non-verbal and all that stuff, you're going to have issues where people are just, they've had it, I describe it as a shit show. I described it as a clusterfuck. And I basically told people in the email they can decide how they want to describe it, but that's how I'm giving them options how to describe it, right? So then I go ahead and continue painting the picture of, and so this kid who has a history of harming my kid, he's had it too. I don't blame him. What he's going to do is he's going to get out of the situation, and what he's going to do based on negative reinforcement is do what he knows will get him out of there, and that is causing harm on other students because that gets him sent home. And the way that the family handles it is usually when he gets sent home because of having harmed another kid, he doesn't show up to school for the next few days, right? So he comes back to school. There's the risk that he's not even appreciating school. He just goes to school and bails out when he feels like it, when he feels it's not the best place for him, and he continues the cycle. So I painted that picture. Anyways, so I fired off that email. There was a near incident, and the principal lets us know. And so, she talks about, and clearly, I'm starting to sense that now the communication with the principal is that she's starting to know that I'm not messing around, and I'm starting to really let people know around her that this is pretty fucked up. And in the background, my wife is talking to other parents in the class, and these are parents too who witness things happening in the class. So we have insiders, and these are parents too that have had their child harmed one way or another, and by the same student. So we kind of are unified by this sort of problem, and it's not so much the student, but it's so much the class and the teacher has to, the principal, everybody around the class needs to get a better job at handling stuff, because this didn't happen before. And still no word and not happy. On one morning while taking a nice hefty dump, I pulled out my phone and sent a tweet out to the superintendent and said, hey, had a couple emails sent your way. Just want to let you know. Yeah, there's problems over at the school. One of the many schools that he oversees. Right? Just letting you know. Haven't heard back from you yet. And now that I've sent you this tweet, you have another way of reaching me if you need to reach me. And lo and behold, the email thread, I get a response from the superintendent, and he says that he's fully aware of the situation and that he's going to be following up in the afternoon with the program manager and the principal, blah, 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 blah. And I wrote back, I'm like, oh, thanks, Superintendent so-and-so. You must have received my tweet. So it's unfortunate that has to happen. And I use my podcasting handle, and I don't like you trying to leverage the podcast to sort of make noise, because I kind of want to just use the podcast to goof off and have fun, right? But that reminds me of another thing that I put in my lovely email was that, I said to the principal that, we're at a point because of my kid being harmed physically multiple times, right? That we're past the point of apologies and sympathies, because I don't want to keep hearing I'm sorry that this upset you. I'm sorry that it happened to him. Blah 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 blah. We're past all of the sympathies and apologies. So I said you can just save that stuff on your own time, or social media, right? And I use that to segue into, and speaking of social media, social media is okay. I prefer podcasting. I do this podcasting. I have this podcast where I like to connect with my audience, and I love to talk about things related to health and family, and that my audience loves hearing feel good stories about family and health and all that good stuff. But sometimes, they're not always feel good, and I kind of left it as that. And so, that's just me trying to be heard. And because not everybody listens to podcasts, I had to quickly describe what a podcast was. It's kind of funny. Like, if you're not familiar with a podcast, just think radio. Just think on-demand radio, and I get to say whatever I want, right? And because my mind was really spinning with ideas of, I'm going to describe this in full detail with names, everything, and disseminate it among the community, right? And because if anybody who's just playing politics has any aspirations of climbing the political ladder, I'm going to make sure that I make my mark in that process, and it's not going to be favorable. So, it's unfortunate that I have to kick and scream as loud as I can, and it's taken so damn long for anyone to take anything serious. And all along, what's happened is, the day my son got punched in the nose was also the day that the teacher had left. I described it as quit. Who knows, right? And it's kind of like, okay, there you go. The one person who's supposed to be leading the class and setting boundaries, and it decides to go, I don't know, for whatever reason. So the class is in a point they're trying to fill in. But a lot of good stuff has happened, and I'm not going to give any applause to anybody in the administration at this point. But several, I guess I want to say a week has gone by, and getting updates, daily of no incident or this and that or near incidences. But, and since then, some sort of form has been filled out, and it's kind of funny how my high-level bullet points on things that need to happen were just copy and pasted into this form, and it's a legit form for the district for handling issues, but I don't know. So far, just hoping that there's a handle on things, and also since then, the kid, I've had, my wife and I have had conversations with the program manager who, leaves us with a feeling that she's sort of going to be that point person to handle what's going on, because she wants to take it personal and make sure things are taken care of, because it shouldn't be happening. And so we'll see. We shall see. But, that's kind of that. I don't want to carry on, and I couldn't find a way to sort of break it up without having to get into all of that. But, things I've kind of smoothened out a bit, just want more time. The class is going through transition, and I hope all the things that were talked about and demanded, and that more attention and support happened for everybody, because, they're first graders, for crying out loud, right? I shouldn't be prepping my son in the middle of the day, telling him how to defend himself from a headlock, right? I shouldn't be telling him, things like, do not strike the penis, strike him in the testicles, and don't just strike him once, strike him several times in case you didn't make the mark, right? I shouldn't have to do that, right? These kids are innocent, they're free spirits, at least my son is, and he knows that harming another kid is bad. Even if I tell him, when someone breaks the rules and hurts you, you've got to defend yourself. The rules are out the door. You can't apply those rules and not defend yourself. Defending yourself is totally fine. But it had come to that. There were those mornings. It was that sort of problematic, and stressful. But the offending, the kid who's done the attacking, he's since had to write apology cards to my son and other students he's hurt. The program manager says that the parents are basically scared shitless what's happening, and I can only imagine as parents, you want the best for your kid, and you can't. You're running the household. You can't take time away from work all the time to keep a kid home or pay for childcare and run the risk of him kind of losing his mind there. It's a really hard thing for a family, and I don't like it, but man, I die for my family, so I don't give a shit sometimes. If you fuck with my kids, you fuck with my family, I'll do everything I can to make sure that stops. And that's that. That's family time. And that actually should be health chat, but I did want us to talk about some other stuff. Give me a second. Jeez. Excuse me. Oh my God. I'm kind of melting in this vehicle. I shut down the engine. I have the windows closed. I just wanted to have a quiet place to record. I'm in the vehicle, like usual, and so before I passed out from asphyxiation, I figured I'd turn on the AC. Yeah, awesome. All right, guys. I want to chat about health a bit. I think I might have done a little bit, but I'm kind of I don't know what you want to call it. I'm under the weather. Got some sort of flu. I don't know, strep. It's not so great. Did the whole trip with the family, then spent a couple of days of the Thanksgiving with relatives, and came back. Had the weekend to sort of recover, and I just been pretty wiped out. I ended up waking up in the morning, and my throat was kind of like, I don't know, kind of felt swollen, and I was like puffy, and I was coughing a little bit. It was causing me to cough a little bit, and then the next day I just felt really drained, wiped out. And then my skin just started to feel sort of tingly on the surface and sensitive, and right now I'm still feeling that way. It's on like my back and my thighs. I don't know what it is. I think I'm dying, so I better hurry up with this podcast. And then the next night, I started, in addition to the throaty stuff and feeling wiped out and exhausted, my nose started running, and I was like snotting the nasal tissue, mountain high cluster of tissues with snot in it. It's just not good. And I'm like, oh, man, I don't know. So when the idea that maybe I have strep, I don't know what the symptoms are, but I'm pretty wiped out, and it's kind kind of sucks. So I'm doing what I can to, I've done what I can to try and recover. Things like, just keep my diet straight, keep what I eat straight. I'm taking in the bone broth, and eating my eggs and, getting my healthy fats and proteins and healthy veggies and stuff, and getting my antioxidants in via, Pure Coffee Club coffee, and just trying to take it easy and try to get as much rest as possible. I haven't been on any medication, right before bed, unless you count a couple of swigs of bourbon as medication. But, yeah, and, waking up is not hard to do, but when I'm up on my feet and getting ready to do the breakfast and the lunch prep and all that stuff, I'm just, pretty beat up. And I described to a coworker yesterday, my engineering manager, actually, it's like, I could volunteer to do 50K on the trails and beat my body up and deplete myself, and that's all good, right? But here I am going through whatever this funk is, and it's like, wow, it's rough, really rough. So, I have to kind of go through the motions and take care of the family. There's no break. I want to just stay home and, fall in a coma, and kind of heal and recover, lay in bed, wet myself, just rest. And, but I can't. So I have to get the kids out. And then I find that when I head out, to the office, it's sort of, there's this sort of, adrenaline that kind of courses through me, and it trickles through me that makes me feel active and alive, and I don't think about feeling like garbage. So, I'm going to give myself a week and see how things go. Hopefully I get better, in the next several days, gradually. But yeah, the time on vacation, we went to Disneyland, and I know on the last podcast I talked about being back and getting myself back in check as far as the NSNG lifestyle, and getting back, reducing the inflammation and the swelling and dropping weight, and I'm still there. Even if I did put a little life into living and have things that I ordinarily wouldn't have over at the park, we had this breakfast, and it's not cheap, so I'm like, what the heck, right? Don't want to just gonna put life into living at this moment for this breakfast and have stuff that I ordinarily wouldn't, and try to not make it feel like we've got our fill and our money's well spent. So I don't know if any of that contributed, plus the exhaustion of just running around all the time. I don't know, but here I am, just trying to get better. And I'm sure I will. So what does that mean for my running, kind of moving to running? I've thought yesterday and today that I'd get some gear and I'd probably go out for a run. But I think I want to just kind of take it easy first, because the way my head feels, it's like I have a head cold. And it kind of hurts. So I don't want to complicate things, and I feel like I have a chest cold. I kind of described it last night to some coworkers as sort of like I'm on the fringe of an acute bronchitis again, and I have a inhaler in the bathroom, but I was like, I don't want to have to do any of that, so I don't know what's going on. Yeah, you guys are saying go to the doctor, and I should. Maybe I will tomorrow. So that's that. So running, it's kind of taking a break, but I get to watch other people's running endeavors on social media, and as soon as I get back on my feet, I'm going to do as much running as I can, and I'd love to put myself out there on something nice and long. Excuse me. So I'm going to leave it as that. You guys can reach me, Again, you can contact me on phone. You can drop me a message if I don't pick up. That's 650-MUG-RUEL. If you have any questions or stories you care to share, yeah, I'll share it on the show. I don't have any updates on the NSNG community, the Vinnie Tortorich No Sugar No Greens community, but I had been working. Well, I guess I do. I had been working on some new designs over at abadamstudio.com. You guys check out abadamstudio.com. They're who I go to for my website and graphic needs, simply because it's me. But I was saying I've been working on a few updates, designs for the NSNG and Vinnie Tortorich. There are designs that I'm kind of at this point pretty proud of, but I'm trying to wrap it up with the NSNG team, primarily Serena. She's taken the helm of this graphic design update, and I don't know if I'm supposed to be talking about it here on the show, but since not a lot of people listen to the show, I'm just going to talk about it. It's not a surprise anyways that I do design work for Vinnie and whatnot, and it totally makes me happy to put stuff out. It's just it's been a long process, and I'm hoping to close on this particular project, and hoping to see that the design used, because there's nothing greater than seeing your work, your labor of love, sort of out and about. Speaking of that, VinnieTortorich.com has a store, and he has a couple of current shirts out that I was hired to design for. It was an update for the bacon and eggs cereal. My favorite breakfast cereal is bacon and eggs T-shirt. Threw that for him. He knew he wanted an update pretty fast. I threw that his way, got that done. And then a while before that, there was this concept of Tortobitch, and I threw several designs his way for that. We went through that, and then we settled on something, and so those shirts are currently out, and it's nice to see them, and it's even better to see them bought. So guys, if you guys like those designs, and if you are a follower of Vinnie Tortorich, go to his website, go to the store, buy those shirts. It's a good time to buy them. I'm going to have to wrap it up. And once again, go to abadamstudios.com for your web and graphic needs. See how I can help you with your project, and happy to do so. And, I want to leave you with a quote, and it's a quote that I describe as, a quote from a wise and influential individual. And the quote is, let me start over. A quote. What good is long if it isn't hard? And what good is hard if it isn't long? End quote. And I'm going to credit that quote again to the incomparable Andy Schreiber. You're welcome. So, folks, that is a wrap. I really appreciate you spending the time, and I hope that to catch you on the next episode. So, eat something delicious, hug your family, go run something. Bye.
Thanks for listening to Ruel's Running Podcast with Ruel. If you like what you just heard, share it with your friends and your enemies. Also, be sure to check out the site over at ruelsrunning.com. This has been another Coffee with Heavy Cream production. Join us next time for another silly show of Ruel's Running Podcast.